Morning, and this is a little bit unusual for me. Normally I like to be out in the countryside, but today we're at Farnham, right in the centre of Farnham actually, looking for waxwings. I've been following them for the last week or so, or maybe a couple of weeks, and it looks as if they've been coming down the east coast, London, and now working across closer to me. This is about half an hour's drive for me. So it's the only downside, it's a bit of an overcast day. We had a lot of rain last night. So it's a bit of a twitch, I suspect. Probably going to be some other photographers there, but it'll be the, like I say, first time for me, so let's see what comes. The first sight I had of these lovely waxwings was this small group perched high up in that tall tree, which gave them a real clear view of the rowan tree below, adorned with those white berries. The small group was soon joined by others, and it was at this point that they decided to move en masse to the rowan tree below to feed. Once there, they seemed to fill their crop up really quickly, which seemed only to take several seconds, and then they returned to the tall tree to digest the berries. And they seemed to repeat that process of frenzied feeding again and again over the several hours that I was there. So it appears that this year is set to be what's called a Waxwing Winter. The starling-sized birds, what is called an eruptive visitor to the British Isles during the winter months. This type of eruption of numbers occurs when the Southern Scandinavian countries, the berry crop is insufficient to sustain the numbers of birds. And it's at this point that they make the hazardous North Sea crossing in search of food. So this is not a regular occurrence. It happens probably once or twice a decade, and the last time that an eruption occurred in such large numbers was in sort of 2012-13. They do visit in other years, but not in such large numbers, and generally speaking they don't travel much further than sort of Scotland and northern England. The rowan tree, it seems to be a bit of a favourite for the waxwings, although they will sort of eat other berries. I sort of chatted to a good friend of mine, Richard, about a little bit of a background on these trees. Basically said if you're wanting to really sort of plant one in your garden in the hope of attracting them, then the younger trees are better, they're easier to establish, where the older trees are much more difficult. He mentioned sort of 20-25 years ago that the rowans were a real firm favourite of town planners, and therefore they were used in their planting for sort of housing estates and industrial estate shopping centres, which means you've got those trees which are pretty mature now and a real firm favourite with the waxwings. So the next time you're sort of out shopping, then keep an eye, especially this year, and look at those rowan bushes. You never know, you might spot a waxwing. In addition to that, I was thinking about maybe the significance of the rowan, maybe back in history, pagan times. And it appears as if the rowan tree had significance with the pagans. They were used to mark the boundary, the entry or exit of maybe a site of worship or a house or village. In folklore, they were seen to be some form of protection against the sort of black magic of witches. And also they used to make crosses out of rowan tree twigs and sew them into their clothing. So yeah, some sort of significance there in history, which is really quite nice. Oh, what an amazing experience. First at Farnham and now here at Harbourfield. Must have been about 50 or so at Farnham, but we're looking at about sort of 14, 15 here. The light hasn't really improved that much. Big advantage here, they're just slightly lower down, which maybe slightly better background. Whilst looking at these birds in a slightly better background, a real chance to admire them, made me think about a post I saw on a Facebook group on one of the Waxwings sites. If the group members saw any of the waxwings which had been ringed, they gave the details to report back. I was so pleased to see this bird. The right leg has the metal ring with the blue band, and the left leg red from the sort of knee down, in this instance yellow, blue, green. Initially reported it from Farnham, sort of Harbourfield, but I cleared that up. And basically this bird was ringed on the 19th of November 23 in Aberdeen. It sort of moved all the way down the coast to Harbourfield, and that made me think about the movements in general of the waxwings. So I went on to the Eurobird portal view, and this is a bit I've taken from that site. I put a link in the description below so that you can have a look at it. It's not only for waxwings, it's for all different types of bird migration. And what was interesting is you can see in the summer where they're up in the boreal forests feeding primarily on insects. As the days shorten, then they move their way down into Southern Scandinavia to feed on the rowans, and if there isn't sufficient, like this year, then they would make that journey across the North Sea to the British Isles, and then work their way from Scotland down and across into central England. So this is up till sort of the 8th of the 1st, 2024. And if you to go back on there, obviously they'd plot each week as they move forward to March, and then back up to Scandinavia to breed again. And as I'm working my way back to the car and watched them moving back and forth between these rowan bushes, it was almost hiding in plain sight. There were people walking back and forth, not really paying much attention to them. And to be fair, the waxwings didn't be overly fazed by us.
Yes, yeah, okay.
So another amazing day. So it's kicked 2024 off to a brilliant start. Yeah, from the first trip out for the Waxwings, massive success. So hopefully you've enjoyed this. If you have, give it a big thumbs up, like and subscribe, and as always, it'd be good for you to join me in the next one.